Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining us. We are on workshop 3. Can you believe it? This is number 3. So thanks for coming back. It must be all right if you keep coming back. It's good, even though I know Tim wouldn't be happy if he didn't come back. I wouldn't be happy if he didn't come back.
Yeah,
so, thank you.
This is an optional.
No, good. I'm pleased about that, but I'm also very pleased at how positively you come back. So thank you, everybody. It's great. So listen, today, what we're going to be covering in today's workshop, our outcomes, we'll keep recapping on the sales process, right? So we want to get this really embedded into our psyche, into our unconscious, so that we can follow it really easily. So we'll recap on the sales process at least once, maybe 2 or 3 times. And there's 2 kind of key areas that we're going to look at on the workshop today. One is about remote selling. So we're going to look specifically at some key principles for remote selling. The second component of today's session is the next stage in our sales process, which is the solutions discussion. And we're going to look at how we can powerfully position our product portfolio and features, advantages, and benefits. Okay, I'm not going
Listen, sorry to be a pain. I don't know if it's anyone else, but the audio keeps being real crackly.
Yeah, mine is as well.
Same.
Oh, the audio hit my audio.
Yeah,
a bit crackly, not terrible.
Right, hold on a sec. Let me switch over to something and tell me if it's any better.
I think since I mentioned it, it's got worse.
Yeah.
I think it's those big pods you've got on your ears there.
I know, I can hear everything.
Okay, how's that? How's that now?
That's better, yeah.
That's better.
Okay, that's better. I've got 2 mics. I've just switched from one to the other.
Cheers for that.
So, okay, that's okay, no problem. So I will fix that in the background after the call. Okay.
Put that against your expenses, Justin.
My expenses are my own expenses, Alan. Yeah. Anyway, it's all good.
Charge it to Tim.
I'm not in that
It's
good a
all good.
mood.
No, don't worry about it. It's fine. I've got your back on this one. Okay, so we'll be looking at 12 key principles for remote selling. How do we up our game when it comes to remote and virtual selling in this new hybrid environment? So we are back out in front of clients and customers, but we're also thinking about how do we optimize the approach? How do we make sure that when we're online, digitally in front of customers, we can do that work and have those interactions in as powerful a way as possible. So we'll look at 12 key principles, and they'll link to some of the work we've done up until now, but there'll also be some key principles in there that are going to be useful just to think about how we change the way we approach remote selling. And then we're going to look at this powerful process for features, advantages, and benefits. And that's how we position products to the customer so that we really join up for the customer the key attributes of our product portfolio and what it means to them, not just stating about the product and expecting them to join up the dots. So we'll look at a principle that enables us to do that really powerfully as part of our process. And then we'll look at how we put it all into practice outside of workshops. And we could even do that twice because it's twice on the slide, isn't it? But we will be looking at how we put it into practice outside of the workshops. So that's today's session. Now, before we get started, just normal rules apply. So thanks to everyone in advance for your full attention. And I hope you will be able to minimize any distractions that are going on for you at your end, whether they be digital or otherwise. As you know, everything we talk about on these sessions and in these workshops is confidential among this group. So I'll ask you to commit to that, and you have my commitment to that confidentiality. So if there's any specific customer situations we want to talk about, anything that's more dedicated to your role and your business, we can do that in the knowledge that we've created this safe zone amongst us as a team. You know that sometimes questions will come up, things might come up for you, and if they do, just take yourself off mute or put a hand up or just give me a shout, and we'll capture and answer those questions as we go along. And we've got 3 hours together this afternoon, so we're with each other until just before 5. We will take a break in the middle of the session, but if we need 5 minutes or a leg stretch at any point, just give me a shout and we can do that. It's not a problem at all. We've got plenty of time for this afternoon's content. And we will be using the breakout room function, so we'll keep the session as interactive as possible. We'll be doing that shortly. We'll put you into groups in in a moment just to talk about how you're progressing so far and give us some feedback. And we will stay on track because we have an agenda, but also because it's all of our job to stay on track, right? So we'll stay on track. Good. Okay. So wherever you normally keep notes, just grab your notepad or your electronic notepad and just, make sure that you've got somewhere to capture your key takeaways. Remember that we will be covering content that's going to be slightly different for each of you in terms of your interpretation. So as you go through it, you'll be thinking, yeah, that's relevant, or something else is more relevant, or it might be relevant to a specific situation. So just capture the key takeaways that are most important to you. And last time we talked about this principle of beginner's mind. Remember the beginner's mind principle. There's a lot of experience on this call, and the principles we're going through are about helping build on your experience. One of the best ways we can come into situations like this is just to kind of go, okay, let's take what I know, but add this as a layer onto my current skill and experience and knowledge. So key takeaways and how it builds on the knowledge that you already have. Okay, so we've also been working throughout the program in our accountability partners, with our accountability partners. So we've got Jamie and Alan working together on kind of content around the program and how for you it really helps you to sell and influence with your customers and manage those relationships. So we'll do a check-in on that in just a moment. We've got Barry and Maggie doing the same, and Will and Kelly as well. So we're just going to make sure that we maintain this momentum throughout our program, and I would invite you to do that beyond the program, and we'll get to that when we have our final session. But for now, let's get that frequency in place. And what we should be talking to each other about is key actions from the program, how you are progressing and how you help each other to make progress in application and adoption of the principles, and think about how often you review. My experience tells me that shorter, sharper, more frequent reviews are more effective. So if you can get, even if it's 20 minutes a week, just to talk about this with each other, go, right, this is what I'm doing, this is what's working, this is what I'm struggling with, and support each other, that can be really, really impactful. So we'll check back in with that at the end of the session as well, just to remind you. I'm going to bring you back to this point. We'll do this in each of our sessions as well. Remember, we started at our hotel in Cheltenham, and we asked and answered this question, or these questions, I should say. What do you love most about your role, and why is it vital that you succeed? And we did that because we want to regularly tap into the motivation that we feel for our work, the motivation to do good work, great work with our customers, and to be successful. And coming off the back, as Tim's just explained, coming off the back of a great month and a great quarter, you guys are connected to this, but going back to it as a kind of almost strategic, personal fundamental can be really powerful as part of re-engaging yourself in your work and getting really excited about the results that we're going to deliver, and you guys particularly will deliver as a team. Remember, you've got your sales scorecard, so you've got this benchmarking that we've done so far. And remember, we're going to repeat this at the end of the program, but it gives you this view on your own performance in sales at the moment, and it will help you to understand where you've got strengths, where you've got development areas, and perhaps where you might have some areas that you weren't aware of, maybe the blind spots. And we'll be looking at those as we go through the program, but just think about sharing some of those ideas that you have with your accountability partner as well in between the sessions. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of where we are before we go to our discussions about progress. So we started our session with mindset, and we said that we have to kind of go inwards first, prime ourselves, build self-confidence, be open-minded, and really know how to manage ourselves throughout our interactions with customers, interactions with each other, and the work that we do. So mindset first. We then said, when we're about to engage with customers, we have to make sure that we're well prepared, because that preparation breeds confidence. It also helps us to feel as if we are able to then create more value for the customer, and it's going to be a better predictor of success. So we prepare first. And you've got a single account plan that should be pretty robust by now. when we go to reach out to the customer, we're going to make sure that every single interaction, every meeting, every call, every video conference has a really powerful reason why for the customer, for us to meet them or for them to meet us. And we're going to make sure that at every single stage of the process, the customer knows why they're there, we know why we're there, and it's really compelling for us both. And when we know that, that enables us to handle the sales process really effectively. And we'll walk through the steps of the sales process when we get into the session. So we're using our Inspire model, and at the heart of that model are relationships that we've established with existing customers, relationships where we've made some great investments, and sometimes we might have to think about the balance of that relationship. Actually, have we been sufficiently challenging of the customer? Have we got the right amount of value ourselves from the relationship? There may be others where we have to create a bit more value, but balancing that established relationship is really important. And then we looked at rapport. So for new customers, new interactions, how do we connect deeply and quickly with customers so that we can form the foundations that enable us to then have a really successful sales process beyond that initial interaction. So rapport was the first step. Then we said we're looking at market insights. Some of this will be informed from the preparation we've done prior to the meeting with the customer. And we're going to start the conversation with impact. So we're going to disrupt the customer's thinking. We're going to share some insights that the customer will either not have known, or they might have overlooked, or they might have forgotten. And that enables us to build credibility, authority, and we kickstart the relationship and the sales process from that impact statement. And whilst it's really tempting from that impact statement to start talking about everything we can do, we said that kickstarts the sales process, but the sales process now moves to understanding what the customer needs. So we make a disruptive statement, but then we switch to asking about the customer. Before we go into more detail, let's talk about what's going on for you in your practice or in your department, or with your budgets or your targets. What are the needs that you have? And we looked at questioning structure that enabled us to do that really effectively. We also looked at, as well, alongside questioning, the other really vital skill, which is our ability to listen, play back to the customer what we've heard, and summarize. So really, really important part of our process and critical in this needs discovery area. And then today, we're going to look at moving from understanding what the customer needs to having a discussion about a solution. And it will be a discussion. We'll cover this as we go through this section. So solutions are the next part of our process. And we're going to look at how we do the whole sales process through a virtual kind of remote setting. And we'll cover virtual before we cover solutions today. So we look at virtual selling. And then the rest of our model we will cover in the final workshop 4, in a month's time. Okay, so that's today's plan. That's where we are to date, and that's today's plan. So let's check in. Where are we? Reviewing our actions. Here's what we agreed at the end of last session. We said we had some ongoing actions from the first couple of sessions. We were going to meet our accountability partners on a weekly basis to talk about implementation. We were going to share the sales scorecard. We were looking at the key actions for mindset. The same for our prepare to key account plan. We were going to share that and keep refining the plan. We were going to look at our reason why statements, share them, and make sure that we're using them on a regular basis. And then in the last session, we were looking at the insight impact statements and the high quality questions. We were going to write those up for each group. We're going to put them on the shared folder that Tim was going to create, that Tim's created. Yeah, guys, saw a nod from Tim. Excellent. And then we're going to circulate them through that shared folder so that the rest of the group could start to review them and even update their own. So that's where we are so far. So I'd love for you guys to just jump into your one-to-one accountability groups. So let me open up some rooms. Tim and I will stay here and we'll have a quick discussion about stuff that's going on here. So let me go to 3 rooms. And we have We just, we've got assigned manual, we've got, sorry, Alan and Jamie in room 1. We have Barry and Maggie in room 2. And we have Will and Kelly, well done, you managed to change your name, in room 3. Brilliant. Okay, so, here's what I'd like you to do. We're going to have, we'll have until 25 past, so between 5 and 10 minutes. Just talk about this list of actions here. How are you getting on? How have you progressed so far? What are you learning from it? And then we'll ask you to feed that back to the group. So kind of how it's going, what you've learned so far, how you're applying it. And then if there's anything that you need to check in with us when you come back, we've got the opportunity to just to make sure that we are able to kind of workshop or help you with anything that might be important to do so today. Okay, so I'll open up the rooms and I'll bring you back in about 7 or 8 minutes time. Okay. Okay, over to you guys. Thanks. See you shortly.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you discuss? What did you come up with? Who wants to kick us off?
I'll kick off. No, I mean, like I said, we had a good session, Alan and I, going through what we found the most relevant points are going to be the high quality questions and the qualifying questions.
Yeah.
And whilst I think you teed us up quite nicely and they sort of came quite easily, I mean, the challenge has been actually implementing them every day and making it natural. I'm personally still in that stage where I'm sort of rehearsing the questions in my mind before I go in, as well as usually just sort of blurt. So I'm just being a bit more considered now, and using what we've put on paper to use it, really. That's where we're at. That's where I'm at anyway.
Thanks, Jamie. And how have you found they've worked with the customer asking those questions?
No, well, do you know what? I think nicely actually. Look, it's very hard to make it tangible, but I think they appreciate the angles changed. I'm not talking about Blink. I'm not talking about the things we can do. I'm asking about what they need, what support's required, what their long-term goals are, and they're far more happy to speak about themselves.
Yeah, great.
Listen to some pitch.
I think Justin, you speaking as a team here, you have to tailor make it to an individual client because all your clients are different. You know, some clients, would, just want you to be straight and to the point because they don't have the time to sit down and chat with you, particularly theatres, for example. They just don't have that kind of time to go through some of those things. But generally, yeah,
Tell me a bit more about that, Alan. When you say they haven't got the time to go through those things, what things do you mean?
Well, as you know, in theatres, for example, as outpatients, they're extremely busy people at this moment in time because they're extremely short-staffed and other people having to take on double roles, because people are leaving, etc., etc. So, time is important to them.
Yeah.
So you've got to tailor make your questions, your what and how questions, to the time element you think you've got through the relationship you already have with that particular person.
Yeah.
Some people, you can say, I've only got 5 minutes because I need to be back in theatre, and you end up talking to them for 25 minutes. Others are quite strict to their times because they got meetings, they've, as I say, they're short-staffed and they have to be on the shop floor. Particularly the managers sometimes have to go do the procedures themselves rather than managing the area. So, you have to tailor make it to what situation you're in at that particular time.
Yeah, I agree, Alan. I agree. But here's the thing, and this is absolutely vital, right? When someone says I've got 5 or 10 minutes, that's 5 or 10 minutes that they should be speaking for the majority of it.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
is absolutely critical. When someone's got 5 or 10 minutes, don't go, oh, all right, then let me just show you this new box of instruments. Because they're like, oh God, I wish I'd said 2 minutes, right? The thing at that point is to go, no problem at all. So, go into your questions, but how do we make sure we maximize this 5 minutes for you? What's the biggest priority you've got right now that I can help with? You know, it's straight in, boom, laser. That's the question. But making sure that you default to a question and you don't, in that 5 to 10 minutes, then end up pitching. That would be my one request for all of you, okay? Because that, if you can get that insight, get that information, that is where you now have value to be able to join up what they've told you. Whereas if you end up pitching, and I say this because I've done it, right? I say this because I've done it. But when you ask questions, get the information, you'll either get more time, or once you've unearthed something real, you can then, they'll then be really open to you going, look, I know you've only got 5 or 10 minutes now. This sounds really important for you. When should we pick this up again? And the door's now open to the next interaction. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Great, really good insight. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie. Alan, great. So where should we go next? Barry, Maggie, how about you guys?
Barry?
Silence.
Where
Is golden.
can we? Oh yeah, they're down here, aren't they?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're on mute, Barry. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Now
sorry.
you're not. You're better.
Yeah, I mean, much likewise. I mean, I understand it's just about, I think Maggie and I have been talking about it, it's switching the focus to the customer more.
Yeah.
And like you said, as soon as if you do that to the customer more, you're going to get a lot more information out, like in a short space of time. As Alan touched, if you have only got a time for a short meeting, if it's customer focused, they're going to tell you exactly what you need in that time. It's not you waffling and then them listening. It's the other way around, really. It's them talking, you listening, and you come out with a better direction of exactly what they need, instead of thinking, actually, we didn't get time to talk about that. They've talked about what they needed to talk about and what they needed from you within that set amount of time.
Yeah, great. And in terms of, I don't know if anybody's had the chance, did you talk about impact statements? Did you talk about that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Maggie.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've still only, I've been out a couple of times on my own so far with Blink. So I'm yet to sit in front of a customer brand new that's not heard of us, or, you know, trying to win them over.
Yeah.
To talk about the impact statements and so on. But interestingly, one that I went on yesterday who was a little bit problematic. And of course, you know, she spoke about the things she wanted to talk about, but when I ended up leaving with her asking if we could provide an instrument that was not a problem. And I thought, goodness, she actually turned it around herself.
She's gone right the way around from this.
Because she was allowed to offload and talk, and she kind of, I believe, calmed herself down.
Yeah.
That's how I perceived it anyway, because, and then she was probably in a better place. But it's really, I think, because we're all quite seasoned salespeople, that we're all programmed to get in there for the kill sometimes, and just sitting back and letting people talk about their businesses and their needs and their requirements and their problems is quite refreshing, actually.
I think you're right. I mean, I was telling Maggie, I had a call yesterday, and it was such a little bespoke niche set that these customer wanted, and the director of it's working in the NHS who wanted to do the operation was that excited to tell me exactly what he did in the operation and why he needs these instruments to do it. You actually get them, you know, when by the time you actually come to present, you know, I took some samples of him, he was just like, brilliant, these will do exactly what I need them to do. Excited about what he was talking about and telling you about, you know, because they're always, especially clinicians, they're always so excited to sort of not brag, but to tell you what they do and why they need to do this and the way that they do it. So I think, I agree with what Maggie said as well, to be fair.
Yeah, great. And you're absolutely right. You know, that almost slight detachment from I was going to say this or I'm planning to say that to here's the questions I'm going to ask and here's what I'm going to find out. Once the customer has the chance to tell you that, all of a sudden everything opens up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You go, okay, they said that, right, they got this, oh, yeah, and you just keep unpacking, and that gives you loads of places you can then go in the discussion.
Yeah.
And it all relevant and related to them. Brilliant. Good. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Good. I'm glad you're finding it's kind of working as an approach. That's great. Kelly, Will, what did you guys talk about?
We sort of talked about the sort of reviewing from the last session, the importance, I suppose, of open-ended questions and how you can sort of gather more information from the customer just by sort of phrasing a question differently, I suppose. By obviously leading with an open question, sometimes you're finding out more information than you're not sort of, it doesn't become so much of like a questionnaire as such. It's sort of, we can get the same amount of information just by thinking more about the question you're asking.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Will. Yeah, good. Good. Kelly, how about you? Because I know Kelly's got a slightly different role from the rest of the team, haven't you?
Yeah. So mine was sort of sharing the knowledge of what we're learning with other team members, and especially with the brand awareness, letting them know what people actually think of us and how they impact what goes on around us.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
And I think we also sort of discussed actually, by doing this, it sort of enables you to see the structure of the sale. So before, maybe, you know, you lead with your impact statement, and then you come on to your qualifying question, and sort of following that pattern. I think, yeah, just adding a structure to it. I think sometimes we're guilty of just going on autopilot, and sort of adding this to it, I think, does add value.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Will. And you know, I'll tell you something, as odd as this sounds, right, I have to take my own medicine sometimes, because I'll go into new customer conversations, and if I haven't taken, like, if I haven't given myself a few minutes before that conversation to just kind of get like the model in front of me, going, right, okay, we're going to build rapport first, right? I'm prepared for the meeting. I'm going to build rapport first, check in with them. I'm going to deliver a couple of insights. I'm then going to ask them all the questions about their business. I'm going to understand that. I'm going to keep probing until I've got a really good understanding of it. And at that point, we'll talk about a program. And that, if I've got an hour's discussion with someone, what I've just described could be the first 30 minutes, maybe more, maybe even 40 minutes. And you don't get to discuss the program until right at the back end. And I remember early on in my career, I just didn't have the patience for that. I was a bit like, you know, Barry, you said about the surgeons and how keen they are to tell you about their operation. I was like that with my portfolio. I'm like, I can't wait for all that. I just want to tell you how great we are. And as you recognize the importance and the value of kind of switching that, so that you spend much more time understanding the customer first, you get them to open up and really share with you what's going on in their world, the stuff that happens when you're not there, the stuff that they think about at night, the stuff that drives them crazy. When you get them to offload all of that, you're in such a strong position then to join up.
I think once you've got to that point, Justin, they've also dropped their guard, haven't they? You notice how a sales sort of process works. Once you've got sort of building that initial rapport, they drop their guard and become a lot more sort of, empathetic with you.
Yeah, you get the transparency, you get the openness. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Is there anything in terms of what else you discussed? Anything we've covered so far that you found either you haven't been able to apply or hasn't worked, or you're struggling with? Anything in that? Anything we should just quickly check in on before we go into today's session? Oh, Alan, you're on mute. I can see you talking though.
Mute. I think from my own personal point of view, my key takeaways from that last session was creating a little bit more space, a little bit more listening, and slow down. I think sometimes, as Will said, you can go into autopilot and you start to gabble a bit sometimes, you know. So it's from my own perspective, I think occasionally I need to think back and slow down in terms of what I'm trying to get across at the end of the day, and also ask a few more questions. I think we can all do that, but that's what I took away from the last session.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Alan. It's good that you've got that. You're gaining that self-awareness as well, because that's when you can change, right? When you start to kind of go, okay, maybe there's some things here I can adapt and just adjust. Well done. Yeah, very good, very good. And I would say that's a very it's a very common area for improvement. I'll include myself in it as well. There are times when I forget and I'll have that conversation myself to just go, slow down, create some space, default to a question. Stop trying to persuade somebody. Let them persuade themselves. I don't know who said that. Someone said the customer. Was it you, Maggie?
Yeah.
That your customer sold to herself. Right. Remember the question we asked. When we asked that question, we said, "But why would you choose to move to Blink?" A question like that gets the customer to sell to themselves. That's when the magic starts to happen, right? Okay, great. Good. Anything else before we go into today's session? Anything else in terms of where we've got to, where we are in the process? Tim shared with me that you've got, you've been uploading the documents to the shared drive, so thank you so much for doing that. Tim also shared with me that he discussed it with you. He's collated some insight and impact statements, got to a single document, same with the questions. If there's anything on there, Tim and everyone, that you want me to review, just drop them across on email. I'll very happily have a look over them. And if you want any pointers or suggestions or feedback, I'd very happily do that for you. So yeah, I really like the way you're pulling all this together and shaping it up. Excellent work. Thanks, guys. Very good. Very, very good. Okay, let's go. Let's carry on. Right. Let me just make sure you can all share my. You can all see my screen.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I just want to check back in on the stages of your pipeline. Stages of your pipeline. So remember, you guys will hear this, I'm sure, from Tim on a regular basis and from each other, I'm sure. But remember, you've got the stages of your pipeline that are aligned to your CRM that really help you think about maintaining that ongoing revenue stream, that keep you focused on where your customer is in their commitment to Blink and the work that you're doing with them. And the accuracy in the pipeline is really important for so many aspects of your business, but for forecasting, for being able to gain investment, for being able to give reassurance for growth plans and all that other stuff that we know is really important. But I'd urge you, as part of your sales cycle and your process, I'm sure you're doing it anyway, just schedule some time on a regular basis, go back into your pipeline, make sure that your stages are up to date, make sure that all of the information that key customers along that journey are kind of accurate, so that as you go to engage throughout the process, you're really confident that you've got the latest information, and it just informs you, and the customer will feel more value as part of that interaction. Okay, let's recap on our sales process, the Inspire sales process that we're working through in these workshops. So we've got the relationship at the start of our model. We looked at that in two ways: existing relationships and rapport. But for each meeting, let's just remember that we start with rapport. Okay? No matter how strong the relationship is, we just straight away check in. How you doing? Build rapport, match the other person, feel the flow. Once we'll know when we're connected, once we've connected with the other person, that's the point at which we start the sales process. We know that leading the sales process, starting with something of impact, can be anything, right? It can be about stuff that's going on in the market, stuff we've heard from a key opinion leader, things that we've learned from other hospitals and trusts. It might be, an innovation that we know is happening or coming. Just small nuggets, right? Little nuggets can make all the difference at the start of a call. Oh, have you seen this latest article? Did you see that piece of research? Have you heard about this new approach that this doctor in Carlisle's taking, or whatever it is, right? But this is all about making ourselves informed and credible in front of our customers, so they go, God, blimey, Alan is a real source of knowledge. Maggie's a real source of knowledge. Jamie's a real source of knowledge. That's what this step's all about, right? But once we've done that, we then go to questioning and listening as part of our needs discovery. So we might say something that kind of just gets the customer thinking, oh, that's interesting. Then we go to say, with that approach, tell me about the work that you're doing here. How's that relevant here? And then we segue into the customer, the needs. We ask those questions. What else is happening? All the stuff that we covered in the last session. So we go to needs discovery. And once we've had a needs discovery conversation, we are well informed about the customer. And that's the point at which we can say, right, we're going to go to a solutions discussion now. Now that I understand everything you've told me, I've summarized back to you what I've heard. You've agreed that that summary is accurate. Then we might say, would it be okay if I talk to you about how we might be able to help? When the customer says yes, we then start to have a discussion about the service and the solutions we offer, and that guides our sales process to the next stage, okay? That's what we're going to go to in the second part of today's workshop. Now, once we've done that, the majority of the work is done. Then it's about making a proposal and making sure that that proposal is met with agreement by the customer, right? So proposal agreement. And when we look at proposals in the next session, we're going to cover handling objections. We're going to look at how we do that really authentically and credibly with the customer. And once we've handled objections and the customer agrees to the proposal, then we go into this stage of kind of final stage of immediate action. What are the key actions we'll take? What are the actions the customer will take? Let's make sure that we're really clear on that. We maintain momentum in the sales process so that it joins up with the next meeting, right? And we'll also look in that stage at negotiations. If we get into negotiations, how do we handle those negotiations in the best way possible? And once we've done that, our final stage, that's kind of, we exit the customer meeting, but our final stage is just to check in personally, take an introspective view, reflect on the situation, ask ourselves some questions that help us to improve and go through the cycle so that we continually improve the performance and the interaction with customers. So that's the model we're working to. And as I say, today we'll look at solutions discussion. But before we do that, we're going to pause the sales process at that point. We will come back to it after this session now. But what we're going to look at is remote and virtual selling. So this is not different from our sales process. This is how we use our sales process in like a hybrid sales environment. So there are 12 principles. Some of them align with the work we're already doing. Some of them are slightly nuanced. So we'll cover them as we walk through. And there's 12 principles. Of those 12, the first 7 are around how we set up and prepare for the meetings. There are then 4 that will cover skills that we need to develop, some changes we need to make to our approach. And then the final stage is around how we set up as well. So the first one is for us quite obvious, right? It's use our sales process. So we are in the middle of our sales training. Make sure we use the sales process. Get prepared, build rapport first, then deliver insight and go through each of the stages. And this is particularly important because I don't know if you've been on video calls where there's like this impatience to get started. So people just started kind of jump into a sales process. We must remember that we start with rapport, especially when we're on video. And there's something that a client of mine is doing that I'll share with you. It's been quite interesting. And that is whenever they go onto video calls with their own customers, they're running an initiative internally at the moment where for every video call they go on, they spend the first 5 minutes just kind of getting acquainted, sharing something personal, and actually having a bit of personal time amongst their own teams, right? Just the first 5 minutes. So any meeting, first 5 minutes, before we get started on the agenda, how's everybody feeling? How are we? How are you coping at the moment? Is everyone okay? Tell us a little bit about what's going on for you. And it's quite a personal thing. And what they've decided to do as part of their sales process is take that into customer meetings. So they say to customers, I hope you don't mind, we've got this initiative going on at work at the moment where the first 5 minutes, we just check in to see how people are, get to know each other a bit better on a personal level. And would you be okay to do that with us as well? And the customer's like, oh, that sounds quite nice. Yeah, I'm up for that. And so it almost invites the rapport stage as part of the structure for the meeting and makes it really natural. So I just share it with you as an option to be able to make sure that you really can start with rapport and the relationship as part of your approach to remote selling, because it seems to be a bit more difficult in the remote environment for some people. Now, the next stage is around the professional environment. So this is about how we look on camera, right? And so let me give you a couple of examples. You've got an example like this where sometimes you find that you guys are okay, but you come on camera and you end up, because of the angle of the laptop screen and the camera in the front of the laptop, that it kind of ends up looking right up at you from below. The other option is, the other thing that you see is that it comes down, the camera's set too high and it comes down. And you've got to think about, the impression that it makes. The other thing that might be that people might be thinking here, he's in a sweatshirt, right? So he's not in a shirt. So there's a piece around the impression it creates around professionalism. If you've got other things that are in the background that might be distracting, see the box on the side there, and the framing's not quite right. They're also looking at, you know, my instance here where my hair might be thinning. So you kind of give them the option to get distracted by your background. And really what we want to be thinking about are these things. We want to be thinking about the angle of the camera so that it is as horizontal to us as possible, right? We want to think about the lighting so that it is balanced and we're not casting any deep shadows anywhere. Because if people struggle to make out our features, we know that, you know, remember our statistic, 55% of the communication mix is body language and what the person sees. So if we're casting shadows on ourselves, they can't accurately interpret what's going on with us. So we want to make sure that we're well lit, right? We want to make sure that whatever background we've got doesn't create a distraction. So background is all about minimizing distractions rather than anything else. We also want to make sure that, you know, from an attention perspective, our attention is towards the customer, not somewhere else, right? And we'll talk about that shortly. And we want to think about how we manage our posture, because our posture either generates or reduces our energy, and our energy determines how much we can engage with a customer, okay? And one of the things that I did before lockdown, actually, but I did about probably 2.5 years ago, I invested in a desk riser. I don't know if you've seen these desk risers. So on the top of my desk, it's like a black desk riser on struts, and basically I can raise or lower my desk. So I can literally, I'll give you an example. At the click of a button, I can go to a seated position when I'm working on email and doing all that stuff. But when I want to be in front of customers, either presenting or having conversations where I want my energy to be higher, I pop my desk up and it enables me to stand. So you'll notice that for every session, I'm standing. And I'm standing not for any other reason than I know, for me, that improves my posture, it increases my energy, it means I can engage much more effectively, I feel more engaging. Okay, so I share this with you as insights to think about how you do that. So when you compare that with, I've talked about standing, you know, think about the contrast in the two. Think about angle, think about the lighting, the background, your attention, the posture, the energy and the engagement that gives you, and thinking about, you know, a lot of our customers are racing forwards and backwards. We want to make sure that they feel like we're giving them attention and we're ready to do business with them. We want them to feel like we're ready to do business, okay? And we want to feel that for ourselves, right? Okay, number 3. My slides are going a bit wonky, but I'll when I send you the slide deck through, I'll make sure that they're not looking like that. Be early, be practiced and prepared, and think about the domain, okay? Because it's our domain and we need to lead. So, 5 practical ideas. This is specifically think about managing remote meetings, okay? The first is to make sure that whatever platform you use, whether it's Zoom, we're on Zoom today, but you may be on Teams, you may be on, there is Skype for Business, all that, there's lots of different platforms, right? But whatever platform you're on, spend some time learning and using the platform. Just get to know it, be comfortable with it, know how to change the names on your profile, know how to record if you're going to record it, know how to share your screen effectively, all that stuff. And host a practice meeting with each other. Make sure that you've got some time with colleagues so that you're really comfortable using it day in, day out. And ask your colleagues for some feedback on how you manage the remote meeting. Ask for some feedback, because that's always interesting. And then if you're going to ask for feedback, be open to areas for improvement. Because there's no point asking if you then go, well, I don't agree with that. I'm not taking that on board, right? So ask for feedback and then be open to improve. And then finally, if you haven't been doing a lot of this stuff and you want to try to do a bit more of that remote meetings, pick a friendly customer first. Pick someone that you know is going to be open to engaging, and make sure that you feel comfortable doing it, because that then gives you confidence to go on from one meeting to the next, and improve. Okay. but that is about thinking that previous point is about knowing it's your domain. When the customer, think about it like this, when you go to a customer site to have a meeting with them about their business, they see you coming to them. When you go into a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or an online meeting where you've invited them, they see that as them coming to your meeting. And so the roles reverse. So we have to be able to take control of the domain, make sure that we know the platform, make sure that we're the one taking the lead in that. We still ask lots of questions and manage the sales process, but we have to be demonstrating to the customer that we've got a sense of control and credibility in the meeting. Okay, so you've done that. You're in the meeting. Now it's about minimizing distractions and managing your environment. Okay, so here's some things that you practically that you can do. So first is, so one of the things that I tend to do is shut down my email or silence all email notifications. Okay, so shut down email or silence notifications, because I don't know if you've ever done this, but the amount of times I've been on meetings where people are sharing screens and you get a little Outlook window just keeps popping up with an email. And sometimes that can be really embarrassing depending on what they're being sent. Especially if you're getting a rocket from your boss. Your sales numbers aren't on plan. What are you doing about it, right? But any of that stuff can start to cause a distraction for you and for your customers. So we want to just address that in advance. The other thing we want to do is think about all the other digital devices that are going on. I got an Apple Watch at Christmas, and if I don't put it on silent, it buzzes away on my wrist, it makes little noises, and it is actually a distraction to me. So first thing I do before I go on to any meeting is I shut down everything. I'm like, phone's on silent, iPad's on silent, email notifications are off, watch is on silent. I just have a little kind of almost mental checklist. These are all the things I do before I go into a meeting, just so I'm not going to be distracted, and nor are you or the customer. Tell people you'll be engaged. If you're working at home, just tell people who are around you, or if you're in the office, just say, next couple of hours or next period of time, next hour or so, I'm going to be in a customer meeting, just to let you know. I wouldn't mind if you could just appreciate that, it'd be great. Because if we forget to manage that in advance, we can be interrupted without realizing it. And one of the things that I do is put a do not disturb post-it note on the front door. If I'm home alone running a session, I put a note on the front door that says, I'm in an interview, please don't disturb me, because people seem to take that seriously. if you're being interviewed, they seem to take that quite seriously, like postmen, delivery men, that kind of thing. Give yourself priming time. We talked about mindset. Give yourself 5 minutes before an online meeting. Get yourself ready. It's not just about the platform. This is about managing yourself as well, feeling confident coming into the meeting so that you manage your energy. And one of the things that I don't know if you noticed, but when you're sharing your screen very often, sometimes the clock on the screen disappears if you're sharing your screen. So it could be useful just to grab a watch, put that on the side, or a clock of some description, so that you can keep an eye on the time without being distracted by the screen. So that's managing the environment. And then number 4 is about our reason why, number 5 is about our reason why. Make sure that we talked about this in our first session. Make sure the reason why for your customer is absolutely clear for them to be on the call. Because if you don't do that, we risk cancellation, because on a virtual meeting, it's much easier for the customer to cancel us than it is in person. So we always want to make sure that our reason why is really clear. And we talked about 3 principles for this. You remember from our first session, okay? Who could tell me principle number 1? So we have 3 principles for connecting with the customer and creating a really compelling reason why.
Is it customer only first or something like that?
Well done, Will. So the first was think about customer only, not just customer first. Alan, you're on mute.
Yeah, I missed out on that one.
Customer only. Well, do you want to give us the second one, Alan? Customer only. What's the second?
Oh God.
Customer only.
Can't think at the moment.
Okay. Anyone else?
Is it the power of peers?
Yes. No, Jamie said it. Come on.
Yeah, power of peers. Peer.
So, Jamie, what did you say?
Outcomes.
Outcomes. Outcomes for the customer, right?
I've got one there.
Customer only. outcome that we're going to generate for the customer. And Kelly, you're bang on with the third one, which was
Power of peers.
the power of peers. Leveraging other customers' successes. Other customers, I'd love to come and tell you about this great work this customer has done with us. It's made this impact on their patients. Oh, right, okay, that sounds interesting. I'm interested in that, right? And you can leverage all three of those principles in a single statement, right? Something that is only focused on the customer, something that's focused on an outcome that's been generated, and it is peer or other customer led, right? It's a really powerful way to get people into a call with you so that you can share best practice and give them value. And by default, that kind of leads you into a discussion about, well, if that customer's getting this result, how can we help you get the same? And all of a sudden you are into your sales process and you are away, and you've kind of completed the first few steps really quickly. Okay, so make sure that that reason why for the customer, every single client meeting, really solid reason why the customer's there and why you are there. Okay. Number 6 is about agendas, electronic agendas, using your compelling heading or the hook, and making sure that that is clear for the customer. So it's a reminder, like a visual reminder. And what that means, 5 workable ways to do it. If you don't do this already, even for physical meetings, I would advise sending an electronic meeting invitation. So send someone an Outlook or whatever platform you're using, send them an electronic meeting invitation so it marks their diary. Whatever heading you've given, whatever reason why you've given for the meeting, use that as the heading for the meeting, not catch up with Justin, but it should be, to talk about the, great work being done with customer X at another site, right? So make that your compelling heading so that that customer goes, oh yeah, that's why I'm seeing Justin, because we're going to talk about that topic. So they're much more engaged coming in. And for new customer meetings, or even established customer meetings, one of the 3 things that can be kind of really valuable to just kind of frame a simple agenda are, 1, to discuss their priorities and challenges in that area related to the topic, right? 2 is to specifically share that other customer's successes and results in that area. And 3 then is to discuss next steps beyond that and how it might work for them. And as a really simple 3-point agenda, it's really powerful. It can be simple. There's low resistance to it. It doesn't look boring. It looks quite engaging for the customer. And then one of the other things that is useful is to send a reminder the day before. So just to say, day before, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. As you know, we're talking about X, Y, and Z. Look forward to either, here's the link to the meeting, just in case you hadn't seen it, or I'll be with you at this time. I'll meet you in wherever it is, your department or whatever. But making sure that the day before you sent a reminder so that everything's teed up and the customer's excited about the meeting. And then if it's a virtual meeting, depending on your customer's technical ability, right? Maybe send them some simple instructions. Here's the link to the video, or to the meeting. All you need to do is click on, enable your camera. I'd love to be able to see you, and make sure the mic's on, and I look forward to seeing you. And that just gives you this ability to start to take control and lead that discussion in that meeting. Again, very powerful if you can get this in place as part of your rhythm of electronic meetings. And I don't know if you've found yourself doing this, but I hear a lot from sales teams that they struggle to get people into video meetings. Really difficult to get people on Teams meetings or on Zoom meetings or on video meetings. And when we go into the reasons why, when we start kind of unpack it, well, what are you trying to get the customer on a call to do? What have you told them the meeting's about? What questions have you asked them? What instructions have you given them? Have you confirmed it on email? When you start to unpick all of that, you find that actually, if we go back to some of the principles we're following on here, the adoption from customers to attend virtual meetings spikes. It goes up significantly. So you follow these steps, use the principles, and they will improve your engagement from customers. Okay, next one is about principles. So video call is better than a phone call. And we should always use our video, put ours on, even if the customer doesn't, right? We should always ask the customer to put it on, always ask the customer to put it on, but if they don't, we should still use ours. And fundamentally, the reason for that is because very often we'll send a customer an email, and emails for clarification and follow-up are really useful. But if it's something that you could call the customer and discuss, it's always better to give them a call than it is to send an email, right? Always. If you are calling a customer and it's possible to deliver that message on video, we should always be getting them onto a short video call rather than making the phone call. Now, sometimes phone call needs to happen because of the urgency, right? But if we are scheduling a quick catch-up call with a customer and we could get them on video, we should always try to get them on video, because we know that 55% of what they experience on video or by seeing us is body language. And so we are literally doubling our power to influence, doubling the power to influence. And then finally, we know that we are using a hybrid model for efficiency and optimizing our sales process. But generally speaking, you know, face-to-face and in-person tends to be the best way to establish and deepen rapport and relationships. But we have to keep in mind that in this new blended environment, in order for us to really maximize productivity of our time and the customers, a blended approach, figuring out, right, which of the meetings are critical to be in person, which of them should actually now be on video, because we know that that is an environment where we can still influence and shape the customer's thinking, and when should we be on the phone or confirming things on email. And really thinking more deliberately about that blended approach, because it's going to reduce the amount of travel time that we have to spend tearing around territories and still give us the same level of interaction and engagement for the customer. Okay. Next one is about skill, and it's about how we operate in the actual meeting itself. So eye contact and looking at people is really important, right? But what happens on video, and you will have noticed this, you may notice it in yourself, is that we might struggle to achieve eye contact. I'll tell you a tip in a minute. But the reason eye contact is vital is because when we focus on a single point, it actually helps us to concentrate. It helps our customer to concentrate, right? When someone's being looked at directly in the eye, it creates confidence and authority in us doing it and in the customer receiving it, right? And the engagement from the customer is heightened when we make direct eye contact. And we become more authentic, we become more believable, both from, you know, inside out and from a customer's perspective, outside in. And the way we do it in the remote environment is that we have to retrain our eye from the image on the screen. And I'll show you the difference, right? The image on the screen, which is here. So if you look at my image now, the image on the screen is here. Eye contact is here. So you notice the difference, okay? So the image on the screen is here, eye contact is here. But what happens is we get drawn to the image of the customer. And I'm just going to do something. Can you all see this screen now? You see the bank of screens with you? Yeah, okay. When you're on a video call, what you can do is take that image of your customer, right? And you can move it so that it is right below your camera lens, okay? And what that enables you to do is move from their image here, which is not eye contact, back to the camera lens, which is eye contact. And it allows you to scan their image and return to the lens. So you scan their image, return to the lens. And what that means is that you can maximize the amount of eye contact you have with a customer. And that is what deepens and builds rapport. So we know that by retraining your eye to the lens rather than the image, actually it really starts to improve your ability to influence and connect. And I don't know if it's something you have noticed, but you now that I mention it, you probably will. When we regroup, when we're on camera, you'll see me continually flick from one to the other. And what I'm doing is checking that you're all still with me, right? Checking that everyone's still there. And then I go back to the lens because I've retrained my eye to go back to the lens of the camera so that I know you will be feeling eye contact from me rather than me being here. Okay, so I'll invite you to start to learn that as a skill. So in the next meeting, can't wait to see you all looking directly at the camera and in all of your customer meetings, directly at the camera. And if, as long as you're not sharing your screen, you can drop your customer just below the lens, and actually your peripheral vision improves over time. So you're able to then scan from the camera and continue to monitor what's going on here just through your peripheral vision. Okay. The next piece is around rapport. So remember that rapport is the first stage in our sales process. Remember why rapport is important. It's about this unconscious connection. We talked about that tip at the start. Think about how you can create this first, 2 to 5 minutes of the meeting to establish rapport, match, pace, lead, then you can go into your sales process. But remember that it's such an important part of the process because we'll only buy from people we like, and we have to just maintain that relationship throughout all of our sales interactions with customers. Really important. And when we think about rapport and our sales process, I kind of liken it to like lubricant, right? It keeps the sales system flowing, it keeps everything really relaxed, and it reduces any tension or friction from the sales process. Next step is about listening, which we covered in detail in the last session, but it's also about pausing because of the nature of the virtual environment. So 6 actionable ideas around listening. We know it's a difficult skill. We talked about it last time. We use our focused and active listening approach. So focusing on the other person, actively listening. Remembering that we have blocks to listening, becoming aware of those blocks and managing them actively as part of the conversation with a customer. Creating pauses. Now, what you'll have experienced in a lot of online meetings is there's very often this kind of overlap with you and the other person. And sometimes it's unavoidable. But one of the things we can do to minimize it is just to slow things down and create a bit of a pause after we've said something and after the customer's said something. And I'm only talking about, half a second to a second, but just making sure the other person's finished. Pause before you speak, doing the same for yourself when you've finished, create that pause, and then people have that pause to step into, and you have the pause to step into. It really helps you with the flow. We know about repeating keywords or phrases the customer says, because that creates active listening, shows that we've listened and understood what they've said. And remember to plan this summary at the end. We're going to summarize what the customer's told us at the end, because we know that that is going to reinforce their needs, and it's going to make us more attentive, and it leads us to the next stage of the process. And then finally, on this piece, bit like Will said earlier, make sure that your mic's working, right? And make sure that you know where your mic is. I've been on training sessions where sometimes the mic's like in the front of your laptop. And if something obscures the mic, all of a sudden the volume drops and you think, what's happened? Where's that person gone? So know where the microphone is, make sure that you've got the ability to speak into the mic alongside all of these other tips on listening and creating space. Next part is around summary, actions and next steps. This is part of our process, but even more important as part of our remote sales process. So think about the sales process. We'll return to this principle in the next session as well, but think about the sales process as 2 seats in the front of a car, right? In the 2 seats in the front of a car, there is only 1 steering wheel. And at any point in time, we should think about that as the sales process and think, right, we must keep our hands on the wheel of the sale, because if we don't, then the customer has the wheel, right? And they decide where we go. They decide when we get back in touch, how quickly the sales process goes. So what we've got to do is really at the end of every call, make sure we're keeping control of the sale in that meeting. And we do that by summarizing key points. We talked about summarizing. We do it right at the end of our kind of actions with the customer. We clarify the actions and the timing of those actions for ourselves. We clarify the customer's actions and timing. Okay, so this is what I'm committed to do. This is when I'll do it. And what I've written down is that you're going to do this, this, and this. And if the customer hasn't committed to a time, that's the point at which you say, oh, I'm not sure I captured when you were going to get that done by, but when do you think it will be? Ask for feedback on the meeting. So at the end, just kind of say, yeah, how have you found today's meeting? Could I have some feedback? Because feedback gives you the opportunity for the customer to share anything that's going well or not going well. It kind of shows respect for their opinion. Check for other stakeholders. Just double check this. Always double check. Is there any who else should we be involving in these discussions? Who else will be making the decision? Just so that we've always got a really clear picture of who's going to make decisions as part of our process and the customer's process. A big on this, agree the next meeting date. I'm a big fan of making sure that in the meeting we're in, we book the next meeting. So in the meeting we're in, we book the next meeting every single time, even if it's 3 months out, right? Okay, we book our next quarterly review, whatever it is, because if we don't do that, we can burn a lot of time chasing the customer to try and get them back into the next meeting when the time eventually comes around. And from a productivity perspective, it's much more productive to get that scheduled in there and there. And so we schedule it, we get the customer committed, we make sure that that next meeting meets all of our previous tips, which is, make sure that they understand that the compelling heading is part of the meeting. It's an electronic meeting agenda or a meeting item. It's got an agenda in it. So it's really clear, and we've tagged the next meeting as part of our process. And then our final tip, number 12, and then we're going to go and have a conversation about this, is about mixing the virtual with the reality. And here's how we do that. What we do is we decide on a physical product or a sample or an asset that we might want to send to the customer. Okay, so decide on what that is. And we ask the customer for the best address and department to send it to, make sure it goes for their specific attention. We send it ready to arrive the day before our video meeting. This is assuming this is a video meeting and we can't get to see them in person. And then we send maybe some preparation instructions. Maybe we record a really short video to say, hi, hi, Dr. Smith, the parcel's coming. What I'd like to do is open it up, have it ready in your office. You might need to plug in this, that, and the other, or you might need to make sure that you've got a couple of other things available as part of the preparation. But then I'll be talking you through how it works, right? And remember that when we do this, because what we're trying to do now is create a physical experience on a virtual meeting with a customer, don't get sucked into the customer says, oh, I've got your parcel, Justin. Shall we get on with it? We demonstrate at the right stage of selling. The right stage of selling is the solutions discussion. We're talking the stage we're at today, but in advance of that, we build rapport, we lead with insight, we ask questions and we listen because we're at the need stage, then we demo, okay? And then finally, make sure that as part of that demo, once we've done it, we ask follow-up questions. So, how did you find it? How would it help you? What impact do you think it would make? Which patients would you use it on first? Or which patients would you use it for? And that just kind of gives you that ability to follow up as part of your kind of meeting process. So, lots of stuff there. 12 key principles for virtual and remote selling. I'll tidy this up in the background. The formatting's got a bit wonky for some reason today. So over to you guys. Based on those 12 principles, what changes do you need to make? I see a lot of you have been making notes as we're going through, so good that you've kind of got some stuff going on in the background. You're already thinking about how to process this and apply it. What changes and/or preparation do you need to make to optimize or improve your remote or hybrid selling? Okay, so changes for hybrid selling. I'm going to open your rooms and invite you to have a discussion about this. We'll definitely have a solid 10 minutes. So we'll come back just after 3:30, kind of key changes, and then we'll take some feedback when you're back. Okay. Any questions before you go and discuss that?
No.
No? Good. Great. Okay. I'll open the rooms and I'll see you back in 10 minutes or so. See you shortly. Great. Let me just pause the recording.
It's a laptop, Tim. It's a laptop.
So, it's this old laptop.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So let's talk about what you talked about. What did you decide as part of your changes to the approach for remote and virtual selling?
Well, I'll be the first one because I'm the non-tech geek.
Okay. Non-tech Alan. Go on, Alan.
Non-tech Alan. I had a Teams meeting booked, sent an invite, right? Specific time of the day, etc., sent it all off, topic, heading, etc. So I joined the meeting at that specific time, and I'm sitting at the top of the camera, and I was just explaining this to Jamie because I wanted him to tell me that I was being an idiot doing something wrong. But in actual fact, I didn't do anything wrong. He just didn't join the meeting. So that what I learned from that is because I'm not technical. Actually, what I did was right. It was him at his end, not mine.
Who's he, Alan?
He was a procurement clinical specialist.
Okay. He just didn't join?
No, he just didn't join. And the reason why I was talking to Jamie about it is because we are finding, and I'm sure the others will agree, we're finding it even more common now that particularly procurement work from home now as opposed to in the hospitals.
Yeah.
It's not the same for everybody else, maybe doctors, consultants, but in my experience, what I'm seeing is a lot of procurement work from home. So the only way you can actually talk to them is by a Teams or a Zoom meeting because they don't give you their mobile number. Some occasionally they do, but most of them won't even give you their mobile numbers to talk to them on the phone. You know.
So he didn't dial in.
No, he just didn't dial in. No.
Okay. And what was the meeting heading?
IVT.
What does that mean?
It's an injection that they do for cataract surgery and things like that.
So hold on. The title of the meeting was IVT. I can never pronounce it.
Yeah.
Say it for me, Tim, because I can't pronounce it.
It's just all.
I think we're going to get back to the feedback part. It's kind of you got something in your calendar. You got something there, and it says IVT.
Yeah. What does it mean?
What
does your procurement guy know what IVT means?
Oh yes, he knows. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Alan. How compelling is it as a title?
Yeah, perhaps it could have been improved. Yeah, but I know. I think in this particular instance, I knew that he knew what I was talking about because we'd been passing emails back and forth.
But it's not about whether he knows what it means. It's whether or not he wants to attend because if he knows what he means. You see what I mean?
There is that. Yes, I agree.
There's a question of, remember, right? There's a principle in NLP that talks about the power of communication, and it says someone else's ability to understand what we say is purely determined by our ability to convey the message.
Right.
Let me tell you that again. Someone else's ability to understand what we say is determined solely and only by our ability to convey the message. So what we're saying is, if someone so for me, right, I set up a meeting, someone doesn't show up, I haven't made it compelling enough for them to show up, or I haven't been clear enough on the importance of the meeting, or I didn't remind them beforehand, or I didn't make it really easy for them to join, right? Because if I say I did everything in my power and they just don't show up, where is the power now to change it? I have zero power to change it. If I say, well, I'm doing everything I can, they just keep not showing up. I have no power. If I say, right, okay, I've got to find a way to make my meetings more compelling, to make it easier for people to attend, to be more engaging when they're there, to be more interested in them when they finally attend, to make sure I start with rapport, to follow my process, to make sure that I am absolutely on fire every time I talk to them. Now I've got things I can control and improve. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I should have put a vitreoretinal injection for the treatment of age-related degeneration.
If that's compelling, Alan.
Yeah.
If
That's
compelling.
I'll say, commenting this as well, because I have to arrange quite a few calls, and it really is. Sometimes I do sit there and probably the longest time I spend is thinking about how I position the subject matter of what's in it for the person that I'm actually engaging with, and what's it all about. So it's clear to say, actually, I know what that is. I know with yourselves, and it's almost how it appears in people's diaries and calendars.
Yeah.
You may see when I send out the one-to-ones is that I'll put one-to-one, Maggie stroke Tim, kind of Barry stroke. So again, so it's showing in my diary that I know it's the one-to-one with the well, it makes sense to me it's going to be the two of us, but when you look in your diary, you see that it's me and yourselves. So it's just making that link together. I could just put in my diary on the invite for yourselves, one-to-one Tim. But when I then look at my diary, it says I've got a one-to-one with myself.
I see. Yeah.
It's around kind of encapsulating that, and people do miss things there, but it's making sure everyone knows the subject.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Tim. Alan, we're going to cycle back to this. Let's hear from other people in the group, and then we'll go, right, what are the compelling headings? Because I think this is really important to engagement. So what else did you discover in your conversation? What else did you talk about?
I think a lot of it is that you're right about, how you look on camera, I mean, I know you would come into that. I do look quite dark. I can see that. My wife works from home in the same office, never has this problem. So I think it maybe essentially is a bit of a laptop issue. But Maggie and I were talking about is making sure that anyone in the household is aware that you've got an online meeting. And it's easy to, if you've got the kids in the holidays, and the kids are on holidays, they don't know, you haven't told them you're on a meeting, and they could be running in the kitchen, it's distracting someone. If you're sitting behind a window and there's people walking past, that's distracting for the customer. We all have things behind us wherever we are, certain things, but nothing that's going to distract. Sometimes I do a meeting in the kitchen, and making sure the TV's not, we've got shiny cabinets, so we've stuck the TV on, they'll be able to see the reflection of the TV, which is again something that could distract them, and making sure that your customers again are just focused on you and not what else is going on in the background.
Yeah,
I think it's
you're absolutely you're bang on, Barry. It's about minimising the distraction for yourself and the customer. Minimise distraction, because the simplest things, like if they can't quite make out your facial features or whatever, it's a distraction, right? These things they play on people's minds. We talk about the internal voice. People will they're inside their head, they'll be going, oh, I can't really see that person very easily. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden their attention's gone onto something else. We want to maximise the impact at every stage. But Barry, I moved house in January. In my last house, my study was very similar to your setup. My window was here. And what happened was it cast a shadow, very much like you're experiencing, from that side, right? So I bought myself a ring light, and I just used to have it on the desk next to me, and I'd have it that side, and it used to balance the light.
Sure, yeah.
So might be something worth considering.
I blame the wife. She's been using it for ages. She hasn't mentioned it, so I can just blame her. You get a ring light, Jane.
Yeah, that'll do. That's all right. But there is the other thing about the webcam is, think about the camera angle, the eye contact as well. I was saying to Tim in our discussion, I invested in a separate webcam so that it's right there. It's always got my attention. As I say, I've retrained my eye to it. and I make sure, and in this room that I'm in, the window's there. So because the window's in front of me, the light comes at me. So the light's really bad. I don't need any. I haven't got a single light on in this room, but the light's balanced because of the position versus the window. That's the other thing to think about. Can you set your room up so that natural light comes straight at you, so it makes the whole environment look more balanced in terms of the lighting? Okay, good. What else did you discuss?
I like particularly the three things that I think makes a huge difference is that camera angle, the direct line of sight. I like the agenda notes on the invitation, and can dovetail that with a clock really just in front of me. So you just manage the meeting precisely and not really, sort of take up any unnecessary time for them really. Just make it precise and as concise as possible really.
Gives you control as well, Jamie, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like that.
Over the meeting. Yeah, good. Thanks, Jamie. What else did you guys come up with? Kelly and Will, what did you guys discuss?
We sort of looked at the, speaking from experience with this new role, I've been doing quite a lot of teams and so forth with various distributors. So I think the one thing that sort of stuck out to me over the past month is, I know it sounds obvious, but preparation, being on the call 5 minutes before, making sure your webcam's working, making sure that your headset's working, you can hear, they can hear, all these things that I think it's first impressions when you come on. We've all been there when you say you're on mute and it breaks the flow of the conversation up. And you're not really starting on. I know sometimes it can be a bit of a joke thing and stuff like that, but equally, it almost sets the tone of the conversation. I think if you're ready and everything's working, you can sort of get into business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also time zones for me, getting familiar with different time zones, because I've been caught out there once or twice.
What? Someone's invited you to a meeting at midnight, have they?
Yeah. And I'm in the pub answering the call. But yeah, so I think just preparation. I think it is, like I said, for speaking on I suppose reflection is the one area where I know now to sort of get everything in place 5 minutes before the call happens.
Yeah, and when you give yourself the luxury of that time, Will, the difference it makes to how you feel and perform when you get into that meeting, isn't it? It's incredible, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think it's I think it's the way to move, way to go forward, as we say.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Will. Maggie and Kelly, how about you guys? We haven't heard from you. What did you think?
I think preparation is key, because if I go back to the first time we spoke, Justin, I hadn't got Zoom on my laptop.
Oh yeah.
Got one of my kids to set it up, but I had checked. Don't know if you remember. I don't think I come across like I'd just put Zoom on my laptop, but
you just declared that, Maggie. I had no idea.
Oh, thank God for that.
You snagged it very well.
But that was, I popped into my head, oh my God, it's Zoom, it's not Teams, and I had to download it. So it all went to plan, but it was having those moments, because that wouldn't have given a very good impression. Although I'm obviously I'm on mute quite a bit and I don't realise it. Note to self, check your mute. But, prep is key. I've got a cat, and the cat the other day jumped behind me onto my sideboard, and just things like that. Shut the cat out the room, and and invest in some a headset, because my house can be quite noisy because I've got 3 kids. So all those little things that I may not be doing now, I'll certainly maybe do in the future.
Yeah,
everything, definitely.
Preparation is key. Absolutely. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Kelly, how about you?
Mine would be preparation as well, just because I find that I have some apps on one device and not on another. So if I'm going from my phone to my computer or my iPad, just making sure that everything's downloaded and ready to go. Yeah. And yesterday, when Will had a call, and I had to do it on my phone because I didn't have my iPad, and I just found like I was all out of sorts. So yeah, preparation's a massive one for me.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with preparation is when you are doing these calls, and it's a new customer stuff, it is the first impression, isn't it? If it's a new customer stuff, you just want that first impression to be the right impression. You don't want it to be, all I can see is a K or a W, or I can't hear you, and all this. It's awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Preparation gives you confidence, right? Preparing gives you confidence, and giving yourself 15 minutes before the meeting starts, for any meeting starts. That's the other thing I tend to do. I do not book. Well, I say I do not. 90% of the time, I do not book back-to-back meetings. I make sure that there's always a half an hour window, and the half an hour window gets me out of the last one, gives me time to breathe, gets me prepared, and gives me time to set up for the next one. If you don't have at least half an hour, you can feel a bit like you're racing from one to the other, and it's all a bit disconnected and disjointed. And that giving yourself the luxury of that space and time is really valuable. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
good. Thanks, guys. Okay, let's take a break. We're at just gone 4:45. Can you believe that? We've been going an hour and 47 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Look at that. Look at that. You said it before I could work. Thank you. Okay, let's take, let's go. Should we go to the hour? Do you want 13 minutes? I'm feeling generous.
Perfect.
Let's go to
Sounds
the hour.
good.
I'll see you guys back. Let me pause the recording. I'll see you back at 4. Recording. Good. Okay, so can you still see my screen? I checked. I thought my formatting was out. It was like the screen sharing was out. So that's how it should look.
Yeah, it didn't look like that before, John.
No, it didn't, and I'm still confused as to why. But anyway, that's how the top 12 principles for remote and virtual selling will look to you. So when you get these on email from me as a PDF, you can just clip this single slide out. So it just gives you all of the 12 principles in one place. But you've got all of the details that sit behind that as well. So it becomes a bit of a lot of customers I work with will print it off, have it on the wall, just to kind of give them a permanent reminder of the different ways in which they want to adopt those principles in virtual and remote selling. Okay, good. Thanks, guys. So let's go back to our sales process. So let's unpause the button. Remember where we are. Do a quick recap. We are in a customer meeting. We've prepared for the meeting. We've got a really clear reason why we're there. The customer knows why, we know why. It's compelling, so they're attending. We start with the rapport. So we ask about them, lean in, match, pace, lead. When we feel the connection, when everything's flowing, then we will start with some form of insight that we share that has an impact for the customer. So insight and impact. Once the customer's kind of thought process is disturbed or disrupted, that's the idea of that insight or impact statement, or they go, okay, that's interesting, they lean in. So what we're trying to get the customer to do in that first stage is lean into the conversation. And once the customer leans in, we then pivot to a needs discovery stage. We ask them questions, we listen deeply, we unlock all of their needs, wants, desires. We might get some insights there that we weren't expecting. We might ask if you could change one thing. We might really kind of dig a bit deeper and probe, what else? Tell me more. What else? Tell me more. Until we've got a really clear picture of what's going on for the customer. And at that point, we start to have a solutions discussion. So we're going to reinforce this over and over again, right? But it's so important. Only after we understand our customers' needs, only after we understand our customers' needs, should we start to talk about our products, our service, the solution, how all of the things we can offer. Because then we can match it to what the customers told us they need. And if we don't do that, if we haven't got that information, there's no way to join up the dot. So for the customer, we are not as relevant or as impactful. Okay, so that's the reason we do it, and it's so obvious when we think about it, but it's really important that we do it, and it's easy to overlook. Now, when we come to this solutions discussion, we're going to start talking about our product. Now, we should remember this principle that features of a product, the stuff it does, right, are a way to tell the customer something. It feels a bit preachy. It does this, it does that, it does this, it does that. When we talk about benefits, the reason the product does it that's relevant to the customer, they start to sell and influence the customer. Okay, so features tell, benefits sell. And we'll look at the difference in detail in this section. So in the solutions discussion, it's a discussion for a reason, right? It's a discussion so that we feel that we can talk openly about our product and service. We talk about all the great things that it offers, right? But it also allows the customer to give us feedback as we discuss. So we talk about it, they give us some feedback. We talk about it, they give us some feedback. We link it to what they told us they needed. And what happens if we do it that way is that we naturally end up at a solution that's right for them and right for us. It happens very naturally because we're not doing like a presentation as such. We're not making it formal. There'll be times when we have to make formal presentations. I advise, even when you're doing that, make it a discussion. Make it a discussion. Put in relevant kind of stop gaps to open it up to discussion, because that's how people are influenced. When they're able to give their opinion, recognize that the opinion is what they thought, join it up with what you're saying, that creates influence. Okay, so we're always going to try and make these, as much as possible, discussions with our customer. And as we're going through those discussions, we should think about presenting our proposition, our product, our service, the pack, a solution, whatever it is, or even if we're selling the company in, right? We're going to do that in a way that allows us to talk about features, advantages, and benefits, okay? And the feature is what the product, the service, or the company does, right? It's functional. The advantage is how that's better than either what the customer's doing right now or other options that they could be considering, right? So a feature is what it does, and advantage is how it's better. The benefit is the benefit or the outcome it drives for the client or your customer, right? So it's what it does, what the benefit they get from it personally, or as a trust or an organization or department or a team, right? So the way that we would position that, because it sounds like it might be a bit clunky, the way we position that is really simple, okay? Our service has this feature. That's an advantage because, insert the advantage. So you benefit by insert benefit. That's how simple it is, right? Our service has, insert the feature. That's an advantage because, insert the advantage. So you benefit by, insert the benefit. And when we learn to position things in this way, it really does start to land much more powerfully with a customer. Because normally what we'll find is, if we just go, oh, it's available in blue, right? We make this in blue. It's a beautiful blue, right? Customer's like, so what? I don't understand. I don't understand why that's important to me, right? But if we go, it's available in blue, and you said that color scheme was really important to you, and actually that color is advantageous for your department. I mean, it's a fictional example, right? And so you benefit by it blending in with the entire environment, better adoption by the team, and improved nuance in the department, whatever it is, right? But we want to make sure that we've got these three key pieces of information. Now, once we've done that, and we're going to do a practical exercise immediately after this. Once we've done that, we want to create what we call a solution loop, right? So feature, advantage, benefit, solution loop. And for every feature, advantage, benefit that we create for the service, we should loop it back to what the customer told us they needed in the first place, right? And what that does, it creates a solution. And we do that because it gives power to the function of the product. It demonstrates to the customer that we are listening and understood them. And so we are going, oh, because you told us this, we are now having a discussion about this because it's relevant to what you told us. And it creates unconscious relevance for your customer. Unconscious. Remember, we said that they're not thinking about it, they feel it. Oh, that feels like the right product. Because it now creates a natural flow for us as part of our sales process. And the next stage after this is making a proposal and gaining commitment or closing the sale. And when we follow this structure, that becomes really natural. Okay. And to do this, we use a linking phrase, which means that. So you end up with, our service has this feature. That's an advantage because insert the advantage. So you benefit by insert benefit, which means that you get, and then you link back to what the customer told you they needed earlier. And it's that simple. So it's really clean. 3 steps, link back to the customer need. 3 steps, link back to the customer need. So this is a slide that you've got it in one place, right? Our service has, insert the feature. That's an advantage because, insert the advantage. So you benefit by, insert the benefit, which means that you get linked back to what they told you they needed in the first place. And that structure is really transformational for your conversations with customers. Because at this point, you go, how does that sound? And they go, that sounds great. Sounds like everything I told you I needed, right? So you put yourself in a position where the customer kind of almost has to say, yeah, well, yeah, where do we go next, right? And that's our next stage of the process. And we're not going to go there yet, but we will get. So we talked about getting the customer to sell to themselves. This is one of the ways that we do it, okay? So what I'd like you to do, we're going to put you into your breakout rooms, and I'd like you to take one priority product from the Blink portfolio. And then Tim, I don't know if you have a product that you would prefer the team look at today. Is there a specific product that would be useful to do this for?
I think just starting from you could say almost, this is probably, I've got one that would be pretty tough, which I think we'll save for another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, and are we going to do this in teams?
Yeah, we can do it. Okay, so how do you want to do this?
Can I give one team that's probably the most experienced one item, and then the other team's other items? Yeah, sure. Do you want 2 teams, or are you happy with 3 still? Should we go for 2? Yeah. Okay. And then that 2 then will give the trickier one, and then the other team that's newer to this will give the other option. Okay. So who am I going to put in which room, team? I think we're going to put Barry, Alan, and actually I'm going to put Barry, Alan, and Jamie. Oh yeah, yeah. And then I'm going to put Kelly, Will, and Maggie together. Yep, great. So the longer serving members of the team are going to get Baron Cornel Trefine. Okay. And the other team are going to get custom procedure packs. Okay. Yep. Good. Everyone clear with that?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So tell me again, Tim. Let me write down. You've got, what was the first group one? Have got what? Baron. Group one have got Baron Cornel Trefine. Is that Barry, Alan, and Jamie? That's Barry, Alan, and Jamie. Yeah. Cornel Trefine. Yeah. Baron Cornel Trefine. Yeah. And then for custom procedure packs, let's just say we've got Will, Maggie, and Kelly. Yeah, good, great, thanks, Tim. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do, please, guys. On a pad, I'd like you to think about 4 columns on a pad. Okay, so you've got your products. 4 columns on a pad, and at the top of the first column, put feature. Okay, feature at the top of the first column. At the top of the second column, write advantage. And then at the top of the third column, write benefit. And then at the top of the fourth column, write solution stroke client or customer need. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take the top 3 features. Okay, top 3 features. And once you get the 3 features out, get them out. Right, it's this, it's this, it's this. Then you're going to go, right, okay, for each one of those features, what's the advantage to the customer over the competition or over, other choices they could make? What does that mean in terms of a benefit to them in use, right? And then think back to, well, why do they need that in the first place? They've got that benefit. Why would they need that in the first place? Okay? And that completes our loop. Okay. So Tim and I will be here, but actually, if anybody gets stuck, you can, when you're in your room, just give me a shout, and I'm happy to jump in and come and join you if you would like any help. But when we regroup, we'll review them, refine them, and get them to a point where you're kind of happy with them today, and then we'll invite you to kind of keep working on this as a structure beyond today's session. Okay. Perfect. Right, I'll open up the rooms. I'm going to get, this might take a bit longer. I'm going to give you till past. I've got 15, 16 minutes for this, because it's not a quick exercise. It takes a bit of digging. But if you need either Tim or me to jump in with you, just drop a quick message out and we'll happily come and join you. So, see you in 15 minutes.
Very good. And education as always.
Good. Okay, so let's start with group one. Alan, Barry, and Jamie. Tell us your experience. Tell us what you came up with.
Right. Well, what we've come up with in terms of the Baron Cornell Trefine, that from a feature perspective, we've put down 16 radial stabilizers.
Okay, 16 radial stabilizers. Yeah.
Vacuum consistency.
Okay, so these are the three features, right?
Yeah, these are the three features. Yeah.
Vacuum consistency.
Yeah. And solid metal.
Okay.
We did have a fourth.
Solid blade. It's got solid blade. It has. It's not.
Yeah. It's got a solid blade all the way around.
Solid metal blade all the way around.
Yeah. Whereas our competitors don't have that.
Okay. So
yeah,
that's your feature. Thank you. What's your advantage for each of those?
Advantage is less distortion.
That's for the radial stabilizers, right?
Yeah.
Less distortion. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Accuracy improved.
Sorry, Alan.
Just accuracy. Sorry.
Okay. So this is for vacuum
consistency.
Okay. Accuracy improved. Good. Yeah.
And for the last one, improved wound approximation.
Oh, nice. Wound approximate. Good. Excellent. So they sound absolutely bang on. Okay. Benefits for each of them then.
Better control.
Go on. Yeah.
Sharper.
Yeah.
And we are classed as being the gold standard. Or rather, the Baron is classed as being gold standard.
Okay. And so how each of those link to the customer's need?
Solution is improved surgical outcome.
Surgical outcomes, yeah.
Better for both patient and clinicians.
Okay. Go on, yeah.
Yeah, better outcome. Better outcome for clinicians and patients, yeah.
Yeah, better outcome for, yeah.
Okay. Better outcome. Oh, sorry, right. So better outcomes, better surgical outcomes for the patient and the clinician.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the same for all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's Baz or Jamie, have got anything to add?
No, I think
we've covered.
Yeah. I think we've covered most of it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Feedback. What do we think?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
I'm not sure where gold standard comes into the structure.
Yeah. So that's my. So let's see what I think. And I think Tim, it'd be good to hear your view on this. So your features, advantages, bang on, right? I think where you've got an opportunity is around the benefits and the needs. Okay, benefits and the needs. So let's just go through. 16 radial stabilizers means that they get less distortion. Okay, which means the surgeon has better control of the device, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good one. That gives you better control of the device. And what does that? So yes, surgical outcome is absolutely one of the clinicians' needs or the surgeon's needs. What else might there be? Why do they want better control?
Like, it's such intricate surgery. It is. It's, you know, you're dealing with something in millimeters, you know, and not something, you know. So, you know, the better control they've got, obviously, there's less chance of them potentially doing some damage to the cornea. You know.
So actually, it's about you've got the outcome. It's actually giving them confidence with a really complicated procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could also be that will lead to better surgical outcomes for the clinician and the patients, but actually it's going to be surgeon confidence with really complex, high-risk procedure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got one thing on this as well, and it's for me, it's a bit of a something to almost be aware of when we're making the statements as well. I've got a consultant friend of mine who we've done some work with in the past, and I pass positioning statements by him and things at different times. He's very commercially minded, but he also understands sales processes. He's got a small business he's involved in himself, and he said there's key things almost to stay away from, and it's almost unless you can improve it. So improved surgical outcome, where's your evidence base for that? Would be his immediate response to anybody that says, somebody says to him, he says, you say, you're going to get improved surgical outcomes from this. He said, his immediate response to any salesperson that says that, he says, where's your data and where's your proof?
Well, I think we're going with the features and the advantages. I'm surely that would have, I mean, having a solid metal thing, you know, where you haven't got a joint in it, as obviously that, we know the benefits of having that.
And he'd come back and I'll place, but he'll say, you can tell me that, but where's your evidence base?
Well, we can just we can show them, you know, what our competitors we've got that sheet that Jess put together, haven't we?
You can show me that, but where's the evidence?
Have you talking about studies?
Studies, kind of, how does that work? Where's your study to say from one to another, this is giving you a better surgical outcome? Where, as Justin came in there, he said that if this is more around, what we're here doing is we're giving you a little bit more confidence in the stability of the blade for when you're cutting this. By default, to put two and two together, you'll be more confident with your outcomes. I think it's this thing of really, you will get some of them that will really change you on. You tell them you're going to get improved clinical outcomes. It's where's the evidence base?
Yeah, I get that.
That would be my.
And you know, maybe over time you start to build evidence. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and you know, we know how good they actually are, so we'll use it and you'll find out. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But remember, at this stage, it's about giving them the desire to want to use it.
Yeah.
So we have to. So one of the reasons they would want to use it is because, you know, actually, in that lot, from what you've described, lots of surgeons in that particular indication where you're replacing the cornea, it's such delicate surgery that a lot of surgeons are concerned about the nature of the surgery and making sure that their instruments are absolutely going to support them to do the best work possible. So you've definitely got something there about giving you confidence because of the radial stabilizers causing less distortion, giving you as a surgeon better control of the device and control of the procedure, giving you the confidence. So it's a really nice flow.
I mean, you could use. I mean, I'm sure if you're willing to trial this, you'll find it has got an improved surgical outcome compared to what you currently use.
Yeah. Well, you could even say to them at that point, you could say because so here's where we're going next. Where we're going next is after this, we're going to sense check the questions that we ask so that the questions elicit the need so that we can link back to the feature, advantage, benefit. So the question we may want to ask is, in surgical procedures involving replacement of the cornea, I don't know is there a term for the procedure?
You could say full thickness keratoplasty.
Yeah, keratoplasty. Yeah.
Okay. So in those procedures, how do you feel about those procedures right now? How do you feel about performing those in theatre right now? What are the challenges you face? And if they then say, well, it's a really delicate, as you know, it's a really delicate procedure. You have to get everything right. The instrument has to be right, and sometimes we can fit. There's your need. Then you go. Then you would once all that comes out, and you go, well, what are the challenges that you face when you're doing that? What if you could change one thing about your instrument set in that procedure? What would it be? And they go, God, something that was a bit, gave me a bit more clinical confidence. Boom, you're in, right? And then we said, well, interestingly, the Baron Corneal Trefine, I like to write it down, the Baron Corneal Trefine has 16 radial stabilizers. And what that means is that you get less distortion when you're using it. And that gives you much greater control of the device so that you get the clinical confidence that you're looking for in such a difficult procedure. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we join everything up now. Question, link to the feature, link to the advantage, link to the benefit, link to the need they tell us they want or they have around that procedure. So that's how we're going to create flow. The other two areas that you had here, guys, you had vacuum consistency, okay?
Yeah.
Which meant that the accuracy was improved.
Yeah.
Which meant tell me, you said something about sharper.
Yeah, because it's a continuous blade, it's sharper.
Yeah.
Go on, because it's a continuous blade, it's what's sharper.
Yeah, basically, because it is a solid blade all the way around. It hasn't got a joint in it where the competitors have it formed. So even though it's not going to be as consistent as it would be in a whole solid blade, if that makes sense, that goes into the cornea, and it's not got a seal in it, if that makes, one of a better word, or joint in it, where the others they're formed, whereas it's just punched out of a metal and it's solid.
Okay, so this is this is different vacuum consistency. Is this the same or different?
Say that again, sorry.
So this is the solid metal blade all the way around, right? It's not formed, it's a solid punched blade, right? It gives you improved accuracy and improved wound approximation, yeah? So the benefit to the surgeon is, the benefit to the surgeon is what?
What, for the solid blade?
Yeah.
But it's a sharper, more accurate cut, I'd say.
A better even cut.
Sharper, more accurate and even cut.
Okay. Yeah.
There's your benefit. Well done. Good. Sharp and more accurate and even cut. What need might that link to?
An improved surgical outcome.
Might be one of them. Yeah, could be one of them. What's
more confidence in it? More confidence in the product that you're using.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get that consistency.
Yeah.
Better outcome for both patient and clinician.
Yeah, there's something else. So there's something else, right? Think about it this way: if they're not using the your Baron Corneal Trefine, right? They're using something else. What's the problem that they have that this overcomes?
It's a better quality, more reliable device.
Better device.
They're doing the procedure, right? And instead of a solid blade, they've got this slight join. They do the procedure. What happens that won't happen when they use the Baron Cornell Ultrafine? Does it catch? Is it not a clean cut? Is it what's the problem?
It's not a clean as a cut. As
It's not a cleaner cut.
Clean as a cut as it would be.
Yeah.
So it's not as clean a cut or procedure. What we need to get to is that for that feature to jump to surgical outcomes is probably a bit too quick. It's too much. So we go the solid sharp blade that goes all the way around the device. That is a single punched blade. Improves wound approximation. Gives you a sharper, more accurate cut. And what you said earlier was that in your current procedure, you're having some challenges with, and you need to elicit that need. And then that joins everything up. Does that make sense? You see how this connects?
Yeah.
But what we might have to do is do a bit of exploring with customers to get them to tell us, and then you go, right, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. And then you join that up.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing about the Baron Cornell Ultrafine is that it has a solid metal blade that's punched as a whole, so there's no join. It means you get much better wound approximation. You get a really sharp, clean cut every single time on every procedure with every patient, because you said earlier that sometimes you find it catches or it's not quite as clean a cut as you'd like. And all of a sudden, boom, you've joined up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great. That's really good. Really good. And sometimes, taking a bit of time like this to discuss it, open it up, just sense check you got it right. Don't go with the first time. Really open this up. Good. Very good. Okay. Group 2, Kelly, Maggie, Will. What did you guys come up with?
So we had obviously the bespoke sets.
Yes.
So we sort of split it into the 4 columns. So the first one that we had is it's customized to them and built to their spec of what they want.
Yeah.
The advantage to that would be to minimize the waste. So they could be having buying a standard set and only using half the instruments needed and the rest get chucked away.
Yeah.
The benefit for that would be that it's cost effective to them. So they might be paying a little less for actually what they actually need.
Yeah.
And the customer need and solution would be that it's built to the spec that they require.
Okay. Okay. Built to their customized to their spec.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Kelly. What was the second one?
So the second one was single-use instruments.
Yeah, single use as part of the pack. Yeah.
Yeah. So this bespoke pack is based on all the items, all the instruments being single-use only.
Yeah.
The advantage is they have brand new product every single time. The benefit is infection control.
Better infection control or
better infection control because it's a brand new sealed pack every time.
Okay.
And the solution to the customer is it's on the shelf ready to go. It's available. So that if they were using something that was sterilized, they might be sending that off-site and waiting, there could be a delay.
Okay, so that's about the delay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we'll come back in a second. Yeah, good. What's the third one?
And the third feature, so yeah, just to sort of summarize, we've put customized, single use, and obviously the third sort of feature we discussed is quality and why that is important. So obviously the advantage of high quality is the reliability and consistency of the product. The benefit would be the surgical outcome. The surgeon's not there worrying about scissors that aren't cut in, forceps that aren't aligning, etc. And the suppose that the solution to the client really is the patient outcome. So targeting our sort of customers, the solution to the nurse or the consultant is ultimately the patient outcome. So the quality of the instrument is going to lead to a better surgical outcome for the patient.
Okay. And to kind of pick up on the challenge to the last group, have you got evidence for that? Well,
Evidence to back up what we're saying in terms of patient, how the quality of the instrument affects the patient sort of outcome.
yes.
I think in terms of evidence, I'm sure that we have got evidence in terms of testimonials from surgeons who have used other inferior single-use instruments where the sort of scissors don't cut the sutures, the needle holder snaps the suture mid-surgery. So yeah, in terms of evidence, there's definitely testimonials from high-regarded surgeons.
Okay, and it's whether or not that's, I mean, I suppose it depends how much resistance or resistance you're going to get from your customer using the term patient outcome. That's the only thing to be cautious of in case the clinician challenges you and says, well, you know, if you've got white paper, what sort of evidence?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose a client outcome. Client outcome. It is, I suppose, satisfaction, if that makes sense. So it's, do you know what I mean, surgeon satisfaction, surgeon sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Surgeon happiness is probably the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's if a nurse is ordering this and the surgeons, if say they're using a cheaper single-use instrument company, and the surgeons say, look, I'm having to open 3 or 4 packs. So I suppose from that point of view, there's that to look at it as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point, Will. They're the kind of things we want to elicit. So when we get to the 4th column, which is customer need, client need, right? The stuff we want to be looping back to there is the stuff we've heard them say when we've asked the questions that we ask in the needs discovery stage.
So you could even put sort of consultant satisfaction or something along those lines.
Yeah. You know, earlier on in the conversation, the consultant told us they're just not satisfied with the quality of the current packs. They feel there's a lot of wastage. They feel like they are not only wasting instruments, but it's a waste of their time having to discover that the instrument's not or not.
Well, I think with all these, and especially this sort of the one that we got given, there's that many sort of crossovers. It's just making sure that you sort of categorize them in the right sort of section, should we say?
Yeah, and it's, you're absolutely right. It's about joining them up, Will. So
it's logical.
Feature equals this advantage equals this benefit equals this need. Because if you don't get that right, and on your second example, I think you might be slightly out of sync on the customer need. Because you said single, Maggie, not picking you up, but single-use instrument.
Yeah.
Gives them a brand new product every time. Improves infection control, and because it's a sealed pack, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That probably isn't that you probably then don't go because you said you wanted the product that was on the shelf and ready to go.
I think the benefit would be, because we were and ahhing what to put, but I think the benefit there I see is the efficiency of surgery. When you're using single use, it enables the surgery to be more efficient. You're not waiting for packs to come back on time. They're ready to go off the shelf. So if we say we put that benefit efficiency of surgery, that then I think leads into it's on the shelf, ready to rock and roll. Then
it works, yeah. And what you might find, Will and Maggie, is that you've got 2 or more benefits that link to 2 or more customer needs simply from that single-use instrument. So you might go, because you can go 1-1-1, but you can also go one feature may have multiple advantages, may have multiple benefits, may link to multiple customers' needs. So that's not an issue. It's just making sure you join those up in sequence for the customer. Yeah,
I've made a few notes myself, needs, and I think some of these, there's just some good things here that link up, but I think it's come back to that needs discussion. So just the last one we talked about, the high quality instruments, is I take a reference back to where Barry's been very successful at Whitelight, is where the customer's saying we've got disruptive surgery because we've got poor quality instruments and we're having to reopen packs. So if you've discovered that and there's need, the high quality, the surgeon, the advantage of the surgeon confidence in the instrument gives the benefit that we're going to take away that disruption and waste from your procedure.
Totally.
Yeah, and you sort of know, you know that a happy surgeon means a happy list. If a surgeon's annoyed and really upset, it has a knock-on effect, doesn't it, for the whole
Sorry, just to say, Kelly's not left. So she's just texted me saying her laptop's died.
Oh,
So she hasn't discovered.
That's okay. Thanks for letting us know, Will. And you're absolutely right with your observations here, guys. So think about in that instance, Barry, where you've got a customer that says that, you know, we're opening multiple packs, we're finding lots of issues with quality. That's causing all sorts of problems. When they tell you that, open that up. So say, wow, that sounds like quite a problem. What's the impact on the trust? What's the impact on cost? What impact do you think that has on efficiency? What impact do you think that has on staff morale? What impact do you think that has on surgeons? What mood does that put them in? How does that affect the theatre team? Open this damn thing up, right? Because the more you elevate that pain, the stronger it is. When you come back to your feature advantage benefit client need, you go, because you said, you know, it could be destroying confidence of theatre teams all over the trust. And we want to help you resolve that. And that then all of a sudden you've got real power in the conversation, and it really informs the client need. You've listened, you've understood, you've packaged it really nicely, and momentum then gets really driven through the trust. Very good, very good. So guys, what I would that's excellent. Right, I'm conscious of time. We're down to our last couple of minutes, but I did want to open that up properly because this is such an important part of our process. Very, very good work. Let me just come to our final couple of slides. So if I could ask, we've got two groups. We've got Alan, Barry and Jamie who looked at our Baron Cornell Trefine. And we had Maggie, Will and Kelly looked at custom procedure packs. Could I ask for a volunteer from each group to write those up, your structure, and put them on your shared team room, please, the shared folder. And just based on the discussion we just had, just do a bit of tweaking of the four areas. And then Tim, if you're okay, as you have done, just kind of start to group these together and put them into one place. Feel free to share them with me and I'll definitely sense check them for you, because sometimes an external pair of eyes just kind of gives you that objective view. Yeah. Good. Okay, so our actions, these were last actions. So for today, if you can, outside of today's session, discuss your remote selling improvements. If you can write up and refine those top 3 feature advantage benefit solutions for those chosen products, upload them to the folder, and then there'll be some documents in there that Tim's collating. Really good opportunity for you to seek out best practice, share amongst each other so that you can keep elevating the things that you know about the portfolio and your sales process. Okay. You've got some key takeaways, which you've been making notes of all the way through. So thank you for your attention again, guys. Really, really good session. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I learned a lot about your portfolio today. It was very good. You've got your accountability partners. Remember, before the next session, dates to review with each other, key actions, and how you can support each other to really elevate the content, adopt it as much as possible, and get the results that you're looking for the business. 5 o'clock. Wow. Can you believe that's been 3 hours? It doesn't feel like that, does it?
Wow.
It doesn't feel like that, does it?
It's flown by.
Yeah, that's flown by. It's not just me. I mean, I'll enjoy these regardless, right? But guys, thanks so much. Any final comments or questions on today's session?
It's all very good.
Thanks for the interaction. It's been good.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Very, very good, guys. I'm impressed. Thanks so much for your commitment and engagement in this. So I will see you in a month. Tim, you and I will catch up sometime between. I'll catch you offline after this. But next month we will round off the sales process. We're going to do the final few stages. We'll tie it all together and finish with a personal development journey. So it'll be a great session next month as well. Have a fabulous start to the quarter, everybody. You're rocking and rolling, get going, and I will see you in a month's time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks a lot.
Justin. Take care, guys. See you later.
See you, folks.
Tim.